Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Was doing stuff, completely lost track of time. Uh, Thankfully, George uh, gave me a call to remind me. Sorry. This very, very rarely happens, but it happened today. Oops. What can I say? Could make up an excuse, but the truth is I just lost track of time. I was washing dishes, and then, yeah. Anyway, is what it is. Let's get into the webinar, guys. So today is Thursday, the 7th of November, 2019. Time is 16:14 here in the UK. Today's webinar, we're going to be looking for price action setups, as we do in every webinar across most of these pairs listed here. We're going to be looking at price action setups on some CFDs too. We're going to be discussing some of the setups I shared earlier in the week. And yeah, let's get into it. We're already 14 minutes late, so may as well just jump straight in. Also going to obviously take a look at the news, see what's coming up. Should probably do that first, so let me bring the news up. Here we go. So what do we have going on today? We got a surprise with the official bank rate votes. Honestly, this is the first I'm seeing of this. Forecast was 009, but 027. Interesting. That's very interesting, guys. I didn't even bother to look at this today because I just assumed, as always, it was going to come out 009, but yeah, 027. Fair enough. Coming up after that, we have, this is at 12:30 a.m., we have the RBA monetary policy statement. This one could be a big one for the Aussie dollar. Other than that, it's a pretty quiet week. We have the unemployment, a pretty quiet end of the week. We have an unemployment rate out of Canada. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but definitely take note of the AUD monetary policy statement. Oops. Righto, so let's take a look at some of the pairs. AUDCAD, there was a potential short here, which I shared. No, I actually didn't share this one because it triggered on Monday, and the first analysis of the week was on Tuesday. So yeah. But this one triggered on Monday. Some of you guys have entered it. I missed the trade myself. It's not going too well. It's just kind of like floating around entry. If I were in this trade, I'd probably hold it until tomorrow just to see what happens and get out. Or I'd think about getting out now. I wouldn't want to hold this over the weekend unless the only scenario in which I would hold this over the weekend is if all of a sudden it drops down to like here, for example. So it moves into the positive by a decent amount. Then I would say, okay, I'm going to hold this over the weekend. But it just doesn't look like that's going to happen. And with the AUD news coming up in about 10 hours or something like that, 8 hours actually. Yeah, I'm just not really convinced that holding on to this would be a great idea through that news. So, yeah, in my opinion, if I was in this one, I would close it out. Sorry, it took me a while to think that through, but and it's hard. It's really hard to put yourself in the situation of being in a trade when you're not actually in it, because there's a whole different set of emotions when you're actually in the trade yourself. So I'm trying to put myself in that situation, and I think if I were in it, I'd close it out. Simply because it's not going anywhere. We've got news coming out in 8 hours that could potentially have a big impact. And tomorrow is Friday. So I might not close it out right this second, but, you know, before that RBA monetary policy statement, I'd be closing it out. So probably like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Giovanni, I'm giving it until today close. Fair enough. So yeah, that's around 10 p.m. That's a good plan. Go for that. Right, CAD CHF. What was going on here? I can't remember. Oh yeah, there was a short, wasn't there? Another one that's not really done anything much. But I don't think... Did anyone actually enter this one? What am I doing? It's the wrong tool. I can't remember now if this one was entered. Because the risk to reward ratio wasn't great. So I... Yeah, but weren't we looking at it for a short from this resistance area? I think that's why I had it marked. There was a long here last week, which was a successful trade. But didn't I mark this as a potential short? But I don't think we entered this, so I'm confused as to why it's marked green. It must have been marked green from last week still. So there was a potential short which was never entered because the risk to reward ratio was, yeah, completely atrocious. But yeah, last week, the long triggered on Friday. Most people, I think, would have entered it on Monday. And then it hit target. Yeah, maybe we didn't talk about a potential short here. I'm starting to think we maybe didn't. My resistance is a bit low. It's actually here. I don't know why it was down there. It's actually here, the resistance area. I think this resistance area makes sense though, Giovanni. That's a very strong bounce there. That's a strong bounce there. That's a strong bounce there. That's a very strong bounce there. Very strong bounce there. I don't know why you don't have that one, but got a bounce there. I mean, it has a lot of pretty strong bounces. I think I remember what happened here now. We had it as a long, and some people asked me if it was a good idea to enter short. And I think I actually said it wasn't a good idea to enter short. I'm struggling to remember, but I think that's how it worked out. What I do know for sure is a short was not entered here. So has your long hit target, Giovanni? And anyone else who was in this trade? Because I know you said you're still in it. I understand that. But did it hit your original target and then you extended your target? Or has it not even hit your original target yet? Right, you had a wider entry. Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, I'd probably lock in some profit. It is at this resistance area. It's obviously showing signs of slowing down at this resistance area. Right, let's take a quick look at CAD JPY. What's going on here? I don't know why all my drawings are gone. There's a potential short here that was doing quite well, and then we got that news about... We got that news yesterday about the Chinese trade deal. which turn price around really quickly. Around about here. So this one's not doing that great. So the question becomes, is it worth holding on to this one? I never entered it because I was waiting for the daily chart short, but I think some of you entered on the 12-hour. So if you're in on the 12-hour, again, we're close to Friday. Just leave it open until Friday, see how it plays out, in my opinion. Here's another trade. This one's EURCAD short. This is another one I missed. I haven't taken any trades this week. I missed everything. Because it all happened, most of the action happened on Monday, and I wasn't trading on Monday. And it's been a pretty quiet week since Monday. So a bunch of trades occurred. I ended up missing them all. Ah, well, what can you do? So the EURCAD trade is actually doing quite well right now. So a bit of a mixed bag week. We've got EURCAD doing really well. We got CAD CHF doing really well. Or having hit target for a lot of you. For Giovanni, not yet. And the others, CAD JPY is not doing that well. AUDCAD's not doing that well. But you should be able to close out AUDCAD at break even, or maybe even with a little profit. I got a feeling I'll probably drop back down at some point today. So you'll probably be able to close that one out at break even. So not a bad week all in all. If you're in EUROCAD, leave that one open. I mean, it's going quite well. No reason to rush out of that one. All right, so yesterday in the members only analysis, we looked at some potential setups. AUD New Zealand, obviously this one has not triggered. It didn't start pushing down. It in fact just started moving up instead of going down. So, oh nice, you're in EURCAD. Stop at 0.5. That's perfect. That is a good move. Is a good move. It hit your 1R, I assume. Stop to 0.5. I agree. All right, so AUD New Zealand, that one's off the table, did nothing. USDCHF, we're looking for price to push up into this resistance area and stop here. It's pushed up into the resistance area, hasn't quite stopped yet, but it could still stop. I mean, last time it came up here, it moved a fair bit higher before stalling out. So I'm still looking for a potential short from this resistance area on USDCHF. Euro USD, I was looking for a potential long, depending on if this news started dropping price down or not. In this case, I don't know if it was the news itself that caused it to drop. Actually, it looks like the time the news came out, it caused it to rise a little bit. But then it immediately started falling after that. Obviously, this trade was never triggered. It never pushed up beyond the high of the previous candle. So this has just fizzled out. It's not an actual trade. This is just some lower time frame stuff. Don't know. What's that? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is just some lower time frame trades from the chat room. AUDJPY short. I don't see an AUDJPY short. What short are you seeing on AUDJPY? Your AUD is hitting a pretty significant support area, so oops. Let's keep a close eye on this one. I want to see what happens at this support area. If it stalls out, it might turn around here. Retest of resistance line. Oh, we must have different resistance lines. It's not at resistance for me. And even if it was, it still doesn't look like a good setup because there's support right here, right below it. My resistance area is up here based on the recent bounces through there. Euro NOK is on support, but I'm not really trading this pair. I'm just keeping an eye on it, seeing how it works. I might go in long here on a demo account just to see, just to get some experience with this pair. It's a pair I've never traded, so I don't like to just blindly jump in on a pair that I've never traded before. So I might demo trade this, but yeah, it's not something that I'm gonna add to the list of setups. In your opinion, it's on resistance. Okay, fair enough, but for me personally, it's not on resistance, and there's a pretty solid support area right below current price. That had a huge bounce here and a pretty significant bounce there. Price struggled on its way up through it here. I just don't think this is a good place to go in short, even if your support resistance area, which I don't really see how this one could be accurate when it was completely just ignored for most of this year. Is everyone else getting sound? All right, cool. So let's say this area is accurate, which I don't agree with, but let's just say it's accurate. Then you've got this really big indecision candle sitting here right below the 200 moving average. Then right below that, you've got a pretty indisputable support area, which has some very strong, precise, and significant bounces here and here. So I would bet on this acting as support. If you were to short here, this would act as support, I believe. So I just do not see this being a valid trade whatsoever for me. Not to mention, it started to trend up, so it'd be counter trend. Okay, you could argue that the trend is not fully established, the bullish trend, and it would be a fair enough argument that it's not fully established, but it looks like it's well on its way to establishing a bullish trend. Look, I'm not saying that it's impossible for price to drop down from here. It's definitely possible. I'm just saying it doesn't fall within the parameters that I use to define a trade setup. So for me, it's not something I'm going to do. It's not something I can really give much advice on because it's just not falling within my support resistance. Gold and silver have started crashing today. I don't see it. I don't see any setup here. All I see is a complete mess of wicks, of large wicked candles sitting near a support area. It's not just that. Even if it was just a single indecision candle, look at the size of this indecision candle. Right? Even if it was just this one. You couldn't use this candle to go on long because the resistance area up here is just way too close. The risk to reward ratio is atrocious. And what we talked about, I think in yesterday's webinar, when you asked about a similar looking setup, I believe it was you, correct me if I'm wrong, it's already had a failed attempt at bouncing away. Now, you'd be entering a second time. You'd be entering on the second attempt. It's already failed once here. What gives you the confidence that it's going to succeed this time at breaking through this area? It's a common mistake that new traders make when they're looking at reversals. They focus too much on what's going on right here. There's a better example of this floating about somewhere. I can't remember. On one of the recent charts. I think it was actually Euro USD. No, it wasn't, because that one we made an exception for the 200 moving average. That one had an exception. What was it? We talked about it yesterday. I can't remember. Anyway. The point is, you're focusing too much on looking for indecision on support and not zooming out and looking at the whole picture. You need to look, whenever you're looking at entering a trade, you always look to the left. So this is the potential you're seeing here. Look to the left. What do you see here? In all of that, what do you see? You see price struggles through here. It struggled twice through here. Last time it tried to push up, it took, before it reached from the support area to the resistance area, it was 19 days. 19 days. So this time it's been 15 days since its attempt here, and it's still not even close. It's pretty much where it was 15 days ago. So zoom out and look at the whole picture. Don't focus too much on what's happening right there. You have to look to the left. It is a range. It's definitely a range, but it's a range with a big spot in the middle where price struggles to get through. It's a range that price, when bouncing from the bottom, seems to take 20 days to get to the top. You don't want to be in a trade for 20 days, generally speaking. It's a range trade where the risk to reward ratio in the example that you're asking about is just horrible risk to reward ratio. 1.2. So what I'm saying is, look beyond the fact that it's in a range. Look beyond the fact that there's indecision on support. You need to look at all the other factors. The other factors are, there's a big barrier in the way to your target. Price takes 20 days to even, well, last time it took 20 days. This time it's 15 days and counting. And the risk to reward ratio is bad. So essentially everything about the trade is kind of bad. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense and answers your question. Any other questions, guys? Can you take a small time frame trade to the middle of the range? Sure. I mean, if you're trading the smaller time frames, then you could technically do that. But it's not really in a range on the small time frame. Because if you're looking at a range on the smaller time frames to the middle, then you're not looking at the daily chart range. You're looking at a different range. You're looking at a range between these 2 points. And the range doesn't really exist there. I think you're just trying really, really hard to make a trade where there isn't one. And it's a very, very common mistake that new traders make. If you have to try this hard to justify a trade, you should not be in the trade. I guess you have resistance there. It's actually an okay resistance area. I haven't updated my resistance areas on GBPCAD in a while, it seems. It makes sense to have a resistance area there. Not perhaps, 100%, you're trying too hard to justify a trade. I know this because I've seen it a million times. I've had Forex for Noobs for 13 or 14 years now. I've seen thousands of new traders do this exact same thing. Thousands. Trying too hard to find a reason to enter a trade. And all it leads to in the end is failure. You didn't tell me a stop, but I'm going to assume it's somewhere around there. Yeah, so a bit higher, but yeah. It's an okay trade. It's going okay. Bit risky. Actually, no. I'll take that back. It's not really risky. It looks okay. It's going okay. You may as well hold on to it. There's no reason to exit. It's a shame that it shot back up, though. It moved down because of the news, so it's just retracing after that news, it would seem. Right, so fair enough. That is something that happens. Retracing after news. So it is going well. You should not be surprised that it's retracing. But it is a shame for the setup. That's good. It's I mean, it's good that you didn't. It's discipline. It's a bit annoying that just before the point that you're gonna do that, then all of a sudden it turns around. That kind of sucks. I'll mark it as green, that way I can keep track of it. So you're in AUDCAD, EUROCAD, and GBPCAD. How are you managing your correlation risk? All right, cool. So that makes sense. All right, well, is there any other questions, guys? Or shall we wrap the webinar up? All right, doesn't look like there's any other questions, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Next week's webinars are going to be at 10 a.m. We're going to do some 4 p.m. webinars, maybe every second week or something like that. I'm not sure. So everyone gets a chance to attend live. We'll do some different times. But we're going back to 10 a.m. for next week, and then the following week, probably 4 p.m. again. Just see how it goes. So yeah, thank you guys for attending. I'll see you for, well, I'll see you guys on the forum, of course, but in a live format, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. So yeah, thank you guys for attending, and I'll see you later.